I'm coming. I'm coming. Hello. Oh, dearie me. It has been a day and a half already. But I'm here. And if you know Blooms Stitchalong, if you've done one before, then you know what this is. Hi, Mel. And that is French Knot Day. So French knots are so fun for me to teach. I don't think that I've ever failed to teach someone a French knot. I feel like every single person that I've taught, they've got it. So pretty proud of that. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm also going to show you, I'll pop this other hoop back in because I didn't actually get to work on it today, or last night, but, I'll actually show you where to put the French knots as well. We're doing, specifically a French knot flower here. And then you have a couple decisions, to make where you want to put the other ones. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing that I like to do is do a little grid system. And I love teaching them this way. I think I'm probably I wouldn't say I'm the first, but I don't think I've seen anyone do it before me, so I'm not really sure. But I love doing it this way because you get to see all the different sizes of French knots and you get a lot of practice. So if you aren't really great at doing French knots yet, you will be by the end of this. I promise you. So if you don't have a hoop stand, you're going to have to pick up your hoop and put it down. And if you are left-handed, I'll show how to do it left-handed as well as right-handed. Okay. I think that's pretty much the beginning part all done and dusted. Let's get a pen. And if you have time and you have space, so an extra hoop, if you have an extra hoop, you can do the grid. If not, then just practice in the actual hoop that we're doing the stitch along on. But if you have time and you have space, then I would try and do 1, 2, and 3 wraps for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 strands. So we're going to do wraps up here at the top and then strands on the side. So we're going to do 1 wrap, 2 wraps, and 3 wraps. I probably wouldn't do more than 3 wraps. And that's because the more that they start to get stacked on top of each other, the more wraps you do, the more it starts to kind of go like this on your fabric. So they don't actually sit nice and wrapped down at the bottom. And then over here, we've got 1, 3, and 6, what we're going to do today. Again, if you have time, please do 1 strand, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then 1, you'll get lots of practice. And 2, you'll know all the different sizes of knots and all the different strands. So if you're looking for a specific size of knot, you can go back to your little grid guide here. And you'll see exactly which one. And you'll know exactly 3 strands, 2 wraps will give me the knot that I need. So let's just put some lines here. This doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Remember, it's just practice. I'm going to start with 3 because that's the easiest to kind of show you how to do the knots. And then we'll do 1 and then we'll do 6. And then I'll show you a couple things not to do. I'll show you the pistol stitch as well, just in case you'd like to throw a couple of those in there, because of course you can. So yeah, let's go. So the first thing that you're going to do is we're going to use both of our hands, for this. So, Jessie, it's the neighbors. I'm sure of it. I'm sure it's the neighbors. So what you're going to do, let's zoom in just a little bit. Just a little bit. Jessie, enough. Shh. I hear them. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to come up from the back. And this is just 3 strands and 1 wrap. So we're starting really easy. Okay? And you need this hand. You need this hand here. So you're going to hold this here in your left hand, put your needle over the top with your right hand, and do 1 wrap around like this. And then you're going to put this down right next to where you just came up. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. So if you turn it on its side, it looks like this. So you've got a loose wrap on your needle. You've got two hands that are holding all the things, okay? And the most important thing is to shimmy this here down to the base of your fabric. So you want it like this. See how it already makes a little knot like that? Don't let go like I've just done, all right? But you need to shimmy that down the shaft of your needle there. Keep your thumb on this right here, this thread. Now what this does, it helps to prevent knotting and your thread, this thread here, from getting sucked down into that hole as you pull it through. This is also where, if you don't have a hoop stand, you can pick up your hoop. So your thumb here can help facilitate that. Not only holding the thread, but also picking your hoop up. Okay? Push it through. Don't let go. Yeah? And you're going to pull it all the way through, and then finally you can let go. All right? So let's try it again. So again, I've just got 3 strands, and we're just doing one wrap. So we're just practicing with the one wrap right now. Okay? Grab this one here with your left hand. Needle over top. One wrap. Put it down right next to where you've come up. Yeah? Shimmy that knot down to the base of your fabric so it's not floating on the shaft of your needle. Hi, George. And then push that down. Hold that with your thumb. Oh, you're just going to pull it down like that. Okay? So let's flip it and do our left hand. So here we are with our left hand. We'll use our right hand to hold the hoop and hold the thread with your thumb. Okay? So here we go. Up from the back. Okay? Grab it here with your right hand. You've got your needle over top with your left hand. Do your wrap. Put it right back down next to it. Shimmy that down. Okay? You got to do the shimmy. And hold that with your thumb. Then you're going to pull this through here on the back like this. All the way through. Okay? Have we got it? Okay, so after you've done 3 or 4 of those, go to the next one. And the next one is 2 wraps. So you're going to come up from the back. Yeah. Needle over the top. 1, 2 wraps. I'll do that again because I did it quite fast. Yeah. 1. And you're doing it again. 2. Put your needle down and then shimmy that down like that. Okay. Now you don't want to pull these so tight. Let me just make sure that she's not looking through the window on the sofa. Oh, good girl. Because I have a bunch of stuff, like my iPad's there, David's iPad's there. I thought, oh God, she's probably standing on it. Okay. So a lot of people, what they do is they actually, when they wrap it, yeah, they do it so tight that their needle is about to be bent, and there's a lot of tension on this right here, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep it loose and just pull it down. When you're shimmying it down the needle, you just want to kind of pull those so that they're not tight, but they're not like loosey-goosey either. Okay, and you'll know exactly what I mean when you're doing them. And notice that actually it stays like this, even though I'm talking with my hands, I'm not actually holding on to it. It still does stay like that. So it is tight on there. But it's not so tight that I can't pull my needle through either. So you've got 2 knots, a bigger knot. 2 wraps, a bigger knot. Hello, Veronica. Hi, Tiffany. Okay, now let's go to 3. So we've got 3 strands, 3 wraps, and that's just 3 times around. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. Put it right back down. Pull it through. Okay. 1, 2, 3. and that's it. Now, if you are one of those people that don't like to knot the back, you're going to have to with this, because if you don't knot it, then it won't stay secure and it'll start to look like that after a while. Can you see how it's like really loose there now? So if you are a no knotter, think about doing knots just for the French knots so that it'll stay nice and tight. All right, let's do one strand. I know it's really tiny and you're probably thinking, why do we need this? Why do we need to look at this? We already know how to do it. You've already showed it. It's really good to do all of the grid and to see all the different sizes, because you really can get a wide array of sized knots just by doing different size, different number of strands and different number of wraps. You can get really, really small like this. So you can think of it like strawberry seeds, little seeds on the strawberry, the dot of an eye, if you're going to do any kind of lettering or anything like that. These can create a nice texture if you put them all together really close to each other. There's so much that you can do with these. Now, the other thing that I noticed that people will do is that they'll put their needle down the same hole that they went up in. And what happens sometimes with that is that you can pull the French knot through the hole and underneath, back to this part. If that happens to you, don't feel stressed out and don't worry. I oftentimes just put a knot over top of it, because what it ends up looking like is either nothing or a little straight stitch. So don't worry about it. I don't know why this one's a little bit bigger. I think it's not as tight, see? So you can totally see that if you don't pull them all tight and make the same tension, then you'll get some that are a little bit not a perfect little knot. And let's do 3 wraps now. I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time so that you don't have to wait, you know? And if they're not perfect, it's like, don't worry about it. They don't have to be perfect. Nature isn't perfect. Just practice. You'll be all right. Okay. So we did 1 strand. And then let's go back and do 6 strands. It's going to feel so weird to do 6 strands after doing just 1 strand, but I've already got it loaded up, so I don't have to do much. So you can kind of see already there are similar size knots, even with 1, 3, and 6. So if you look at 3 strands, 1 wrap, and almost 1 strand, 3 wraps, they're almost the same size. Yeah. Or if you go to 6 strands, 1 wrap, or 3 strands, 3 wraps, they're almost the same size. Ooh, Num's got a little question. Probably, I don't know what that is. He says, do you know what meme that's like blueberry cupcake or chihuahua? No. I don't know that one. Hopefully it's not bad. That's what the 3 strands row looks like to me. I'm going to have to look that up now. So what's happening on your needle here? I know I'm an angel. I somehow doubt that, especially if you come to these lives. So what happens here is, do you see as I'm wrapping it, it kind of like stacks on the needle like that? Now what happens if you do too many is that see how it's like stacked like that? It has like a nice little knot there. What happens is when you do too many wraps, it goes up and up and up and up and up the needle. And then when you put just one thread through, meaning like 1 6 strands through. I'm going to have to start over again, aren't I? What happens is instead of just like like one knot like this, then do they look like blueberry muffins? He's talking about the chihuahuas. Instead of having just like one wrap and you have like one kind of bit of thread going through, when you've got two wraps like this and one bit of thread going through, what happens is you end up getting 4 or 5 bits, and they stack like this, and they end up kind of going over to the side because you still only have one wrap through. So you end up getting, he says, I'm so sorry, Tori, it's okay. Because I'm sitting here thinking, chihuahuas do kind of look like blueberry muffins sometimes. Like muffins. They kind of do. I'm just thinking about that. And then I was thinking about how sausage dogs, I saw one that looked like a donut once. Like, so they took a picture of it. It looked like a donut. So it's totally my fault. I'm just going all over the place. But yeah, so I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a minute. Let me just finish my grid. So we've got 3. So yeah, so what happens, okay? We've got like this. So let's do like 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 wraps. So that's 5 pieces of thread all stacked up on each other like this, okay? So what's going to happen is when you have one thread going through all of them to hold it, to hold that down, they're going to kind of go over like a, see how they start to go over? Because you only have that one, I'm going to say one strand, but it's not really a strand. It's that one piece of thread that's 6 strands, yeah, holding it all down. So you can pretty much get away with 3 strands, and they fit really nicely in a little knot there, and they hold it nice and tight and together. But when you have like 6 or 7 or 8, obviously this was 5, this one, they start to kind of roll over on themselves. So they're not great for what we want to use them for, which is the French knots, like in the middle of flowers or to like fill up space. But it is great if you want to create a lot of texture in something, like if you're doing an abstract piece, and you want to, you know, give it that like 3D kind of look. So there's that. Tacking stitch, yeah. That's pretty much what it is, really, is the little tacking stitch to hold that down. Because if you follow it through, it comes up here, and then it goes through those circles here, and then out to the other side. Yeah, this live has gone to the dogs, hasn't it? Basically, yeah. Because now I'm just thinking about, yeah, I'm just thinking about all kinds of other things now. It's totally my fault. Okay, so let's try and do a pistol stitch, and that's very, very similar to this. So it's doing in the exact same way, except instead of going down right next to where you came up, you go down a ways away. So what you're going to do is come up like this, do your wraps. So I'm just going to do one wrap, and instead of coming down right here and doing a tiny little knot here like we did here, what we're going to do is go a ways away. And what you're going to end up with is basically a knot on a stick. So you've got your knot on the top and your straight little stitch here. So a lot of people say, well, can't you just do a straight stitch with a knot at the top? You totally can, but then you're doing 2 stitches when you could just do 1 stitch. So it just depends. It depends on how you want to do it. Now you can make this knot bigger. Let's come back down here, actually. You can make this knot bigger by doing more wraps. So if you did 3 wraps at the top, pull it through, you end up with a bigger knot. Okay? So you can kind of see how these look like those things that have pollen in, what are they called, like stamen or something? Yeah, do you see how they could look like that? So that's pretty much it for the French knot. I just want to look up that meme now. That's all I can think about. So let's just tie that off, okay? If you have time, do 1 strand, 2 strand, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You'll have a lovely, lovely grid. You don't have to do 3 of each one. You can even just do 1 of each one if you want to just see how they look. And yeah, and you can experiment with more than 3 wraps if you want to. So if you wanted to do something like 5, 6, 10 even, you can see how they really kind of fall over on themselves instead of stacking nicely in a knot. So let's put this other hoop back on. Dearie me. That is tight. Just loosen that up a little bit, and we'll put it a little bit to the side too, because we're going to need the middle of that. This one. I sent it to you on DMs. Thank you. Okay. So here we go. You can choose any color, obviously, to do these. I'm going to do a color for the actual flower that we're going to stitch. And then you can use like yellow for the centers or whatever you want to do. And I believe I picked like a purpley color for this. I might just choose this one, this like darker kind of purple. That will be nice, I think. And the other question I get asked a lot is, how do you know how many wraps and how many strands? This is not the right needle. I want this one. So what I like to do is, if it's a big area like this, and I know I want just like a couple, then I'll start with 6 strands and then do the wraps and kind of try it before you buy it. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So don't commit to your knot. Okay? So what you're going to do is come up here. Say I want to try 2. Yeah? Put it down like this and then leave it. And you can kind of have a look and see, is it the right size? Do I want a bigger one? And then if you don't like it, pull it out and you can start again. So you can do 3. Yeah, so that's like really big and like nice and lush. So let's do that. Now the good part about doing bigger knots is that you don't need as many to fill in the space. The bad part is that it tends to pull your fabric. So what ends up happening is that you get little gaps in your hoop, especially since it's by the edge. I like to do a little outline first and then fill in the middle. I'm doing all 6 strands and 3 wraps if you didn't quite catch that. And you can totally see, do you see when I pull it? It pulls that fabric down. So make sure that you are tightening that up, especially if you're doing all 6 strands and 3 wraps on yours. And this is one of those things that if you want to make them a little bit smaller, you can make them a little bit smaller. The knots, I mean. Or you can keep them just this big. You can do knots on top of knots, meaning like they overlap a little bit, so they're not like spaced out like this. They're like a little bit more close together and like bunched up. It's completely up to you. French knots are so fun. So this is what I mean about getting your thread sucked into the knot because you weren't holding it. So I wasn't holding it and my thread got sucked in. So what I'm going to do is put my finger here and then pull this out and hope that it still can be saved. There we go. So you just want to make sure that your thread doesn't get sucked in like that. The other thing that happens a lot with French knots is because you're continuously wrapping and wrapping and wrapping your thread around the needle. What's going on here? Oftentimes, your thread will start to do this. So do you see how it's like twisting in on itself? And that's why I got a knot on the back just then when I said, what happened here? Okay, what you need to do for this is you need to, let's loosen this, is you need to let your thread dangle. And I think I showed this before. Let your thread dangle and your needle should start to spin. Okay? And all you're doing is you're just kind of unspinning all of those knots. Have or do you use a milliner's needle for this kind of thing? I personally don't, because I don't find that it makes that much of a difference, really. If you were to do something like the bullion stitch, where you are going to wrap a lot more times, then I would 100% use a different needle. But for this purpose, I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. So a milliner's needle doesn't actually flare out at the end here. So you can see here the shaft of the needle is a certain width, and then where the eye is, it kind of goes out just that little bit. A milliner's needle is the same thickness from eye to tip, eye to point, tip to head, tip to eye. Christ. I can do it, okay? I don't need help. I don't need help from anyone. Don't worry about me. Just slowly losing it over here. Okay. So I filled in the shape. So what I meant about putting them kind of on top of each other is that if you wanted to, you could probably fit 2 or 3 more if I kind of squeezed these apart and really like put them up on top and kind of made it almost like a dome. You could totally do that if you want to, or you can just leave them like a little cute little bunch and move along. Totally up to you and what you would like to do. So I'm just going to continue so I can finish this flower here. But we'll use these more on Details Day. Bye, I gotta lay down. Mel, you should lay down. You've probably been up since midnight stitching, if I know you. Yeah, have a good sleep. I think I'm just gonna have enough here. Let's just let my needle dangle for a minute to get all those twists out. And then back at it. Okay, so on Details Day, which is always at the very end of the stitch along where I show what other details you can do, I'll show you where you can put all of these, but obviously I'll just go through them a little bit right now. And obviously, what I was going to say is obviously you can put them wherever you want to, but I'll go through just before I go a little bit now, just in case you learned a new stitch, you can't stop using it, and you want to put it more places. Because that's kind of, hi Sylvia, what happens to me as I learn a new stitch and I'm like, oh my God, I must use it. So if you've never cracked French knots and you're like, I want to do more, and this is for you. Let's just do a little knot here. Okay, so the obvious places that you can use French knots are in the centers of flowers. And you can totally see why this would work really well as the center of a flower. So obviously any of the flowers that we've made, you can put a French knot in the middle, okay? The other middle thing that you can do is just a regular satin stitch or straight stitches. So for example, this right here has a really nice edge. If you think, oh, I worked so hard and that oval is so lovely, I'm just going to do some satin stitch across the middle. That's totally fine. Things like the middle of your woven wagon wheel roses, if you're like, these didn't turn out that great, throw a couple French knots in the middle and that will just jazz them up. The middle of these little ones here, and then up here at the top, those are also meant to be French knots in my mind in the pattern. But obviously if you would like to try something else, you could do like a tiny little stitch there. Go ahead. Do you know what I mean? I haven't finished this yet because, like I said, today was a bit manic, so I haven't had a chance to. Hopefully tonight, everybody, fingers crossed that he goes to sleep super easy, and then I can catch up on my stitching. And then I can show you tomorrow. I think we're going to start the basket and do that. And then that will be Wednesday. And then Thursday, we'll do all the details and kind of finish it up and show you all the little different things that we're going to do. And we still have to do the fern and fly stitch, but that has to be done after the basket. So yeah, they'll be easy because they're just little dangly guys there anyways. So yeah, so we've got a little bit left to do still. And then Friday, I'll show you how to tie it all up and be finished. So it's super exciting. I cannot believe that we're almost done. Also, can I just say that all of these French flowers are giving me life. They are so amazing. This morning when I saw them, I was like getting a little bit emotional. I was like, oh my gosh, some of these people have never stitched before ever. This is their first hoop and they're doing this. Like, it makes me so proud of you guys. It's probably the I just had a baby hormone thing, but I don't even care. I'm just so happy. So I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely Tuesday. That's pretty much it for me. That's really all you need to do today, unless you would like to do more, in which case you can get started on the insides of the flowers. There's a big space here in the middle. If you want to fill them with French knots, you can. If you want to do a ring of French knots and do a satin stitch in the middle, that looks really lovely too. Do the satin stitch first and then do your ring of French knots around, and it will cover up all of the lines, top tip. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in details day 2. So you still have time if you're like, I don't really want to do that much today. It's a Tuesday. Just want to chill. Totally fine. So enjoy. I hope you have a lovely rest of your evening, and I will speak with you tomorrow. All right? Bye.